Okay, so thank you for the kind introduction. I hope everybody has enjoyed their day so far. As has been said, my name is Talat Yaqoob. I was previously the director of Equate Scotland, which focused on women's participation in science, technology, engineering and mathematics. And I'm now an independent consultant focusing on gender, race equality and intersectional policy development. The final panel for today is about how we can make AI more inclusive. And to be honest, from all the conversations that I've heard so far and the excellent presentation from yourself, really it's been the focus of the entire day, and that's really how it should be. At no point would we want conversations about inclusion, conversations about justice to be sidelined, to be something that is only one panel in an entire conference. So well done on staying here, but also hopefully well done on having other conversations about inclusion throughout the day. Why does this matter? Well, the reality is that AI is part of our lives already. It is everywhere, whether we talk about our health, the environment, transport, justice system. AI already exists in those spaces that we occupy. But what does that mean for the already marginalized communities? If bias is human, and it's humans behind AI, the bias is being created into what we create in the future and what we have now. As a consequence, that means that we will see the same biases creating the same oppressions that we already see in society. So how is AI compatible, whilst it remains biased, with the creation of a fairer, prosperous and progressive society? So just some small questions for the next 45 minutes. It gives me great pleasure to be able to introduce an esteemed panel that I will learn a lot from, because I'm just here to coordinate. I do research on social things. I don't do research on data things. Okay, so I feel like a complete imposter here, but I'm here to learn too. So we have firstly Chuks Adodo, who is the Community Connecting Manager at DataKirk. We have Reyam Enad, Data Scientist at Admiral Group and Mentor at CodeYourFuture. Welcome. And as you will have just heard from Professor Anna Lulu Waller, Professor of Human Communication Technologies, University of Dundee, and just general inspirer after the last presentation we had. Thank you very much. And I believe we also have joining us virtually will be Marissa Tishop, who's the Chief Research Officer at Women in AI. So we're keen to have as much of a kind of flowing conversation as possible, but I'm going to let you cheat by asking a few questions of the panel whilst you warm up and ask questions for me to get from my iPad next to me. So I want to start off by the clearest question that we've had from the day, and the question that I think comes up most often. You all represent or work with different groups of communities that have the potential to be excluded by AI. What are the consequences of this exclusion? And why is it possible for AI to make things worse for already marginalized communities? If you don't mind, I will start first with Marissa. You have the honor since you're online.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you. And I have to admit, I am wearing the pajamas, but you cannot see it. So I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but yeah. So, I mean, research on AI and gender equality has primarily focused on gender-related bias, discovery, and prevention, right? In product designs, in ML algorithms, in ML data. And also the question of female underrepresentation in STEM and AI has been largely investigated. So, and what are the consequences? And I'm sure they have been discussed thoroughly already. Several examples provide evidence how AI maintains, strengthens, and reproduces gender bias. And this is a major ethical concern, and it even contributes to amplifying this gender inequality in society as a whole. So product developments, design choices, all these things can contribute to transmitting these gender-related stereotypes to AI, reflecting the thinking patterns of developers. And finally, I want to point out that there's this long and very overhyped promotion of flawed products, and this is even accelerating the negative effects on gender issues and reinforcing these kind of societal biases we already have.
Thank you so much, Marissa. So the question, just in case, again, is understanding what you think of the consequences of exclusionary practice within AI and what impact that has for already marginalised groups. Thank you, Marissa. So can I go to Professor Annalie Waller?
I've probably spoken far too much already.
We enjoyed it.
Maybe an example. When we were designing the S&P app, my researchers were really excited. They brought me the tablet. They wanted me to look at what they'd done. I couldn't even access what they wanted to show me because they had tried their best, but nobody can replicate the way my hands work. Mm-hmm. And I think we forget the barrier before we even get to the technology. Is the access to the technology. And if we disregard, that's just something we're forced to do, it's not really important. Unless we all take accessibility seriously, we are going to lose more than 20% of our population, because that's the number that are disabled, and not even counting older people who will be excluded. And if we want an inclusive society, we need to include everybody in our technology as well.
Just to follow up on that, Professor, do you think that the digital divide that you talk about, and certainly during COVID-19, the pandemic, the digital divide became very, very clear, and the digital poverty aligned with that became very clear. Do you believe that the digital divide is already partly due to an assumption, because of exclusion previously, that digital won't be able to provide?
I think we're starting off from a bad starting point already. But I think the work that's being done in accessibility is great.
Yeah.
But if you look at what's happened over COVID, and like in the health service, consultations online, talking to my neurologist, she was saying that trying to assess newly diagnosed older people with neurological conditions, they couldn't even get the system to work, let alone did they have the correct operating system, did they have the correct Wi-Fi, the broadband wasn't there. So you can't split this into different bits. You need to look at it as a whole. It's to do with socio-economic issues. It's to do with discrimination. It's to do with inability to access public services already. And if we make that digital, like all the voting or the social benefits where people are being forced to go online, that divide, instead of the potential to reduce it, we're just making it bigger.
Absolutely. And I think it's a point well made. We tend to put equality and inclusion as some side project, as opposed to threaded through everything we do, whether it's the economy, whether it's health and beyond. Thank you. Reyam, could I get your thoughts on this?
So I would say, like, exclusion is already exist. We had and we still have lacking diversity within the society. So just think about how people get accepted or rejected by home offices, how people like get hired for the companies, how people like get promoted within their job. So like all of that, like before the AI. So now you can imagine how situation will be within the AI. AI at the end is decision making, making by people and data. So the consequences for that, of course, will be people will be pushed out, denied, and also people, companies, organizations losing opportunities. These opportunities, like there is many people can get benefit from it. And also like imagine there is a company using automated, I wouldn't say automated, bias system, and that system will try to choose CV for their applicants. It will delete someone from it just because the data scientists there, they decided to put like random variables. Like, for example, there is one example from the past. One of the data science team from one university, they decided to use names for their data. Names as variable. Of course, no one will do it, but they did it. At the end, some groups, they got like rejected just because there is some groups, model will say, I want these groups because from my previous data, they are good people. We want them. So it's about choosing the right data for the model. So if we don't have that diversity within the developers, they wouldn't consider these things. So I would say like the worst consequences from these things is losing opportunities.
Really well made. And we see that already in terms of recruitment bias.
Exactly.
Within our day-to-day activities, we see recruitment bias, whether it is a common name from Black, Asian, minority ethnic communities, whether it's a woman, whether we're able to tell if you've taken on your CV a one-year gap in your CV, whether that's for caring responsibilities, and if we're transferring that into our technology, which we have the wrongful assumption that it is seeing everybody as equal, therefore we're cancelling opportunities for people.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you. Chucks, I'll hand over to you finally.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question and the opportunity to be here. Yeah, there's a huge data divide or gap in our society. And yeah, AI is a good strategy and for the future. But the issue is that my community will be deprived. My community is still trapped in digital poverty. My community was cut off during the pandemic because the only way we can access internet is only the library, and the library was shut. For us to I want us to be honest when we look at so many policies. How diverse is our decision-making table where we are making policy? Somebody who is talking about AI, what do you understand about diverse community that you are going to bring out policy and strategy that is going to affect? Now, do we consider what the situation of other people in terms of making this policy? It's not about just making the policy, but how do we implement this policy? Now, if you look at the way the Home Office, the passport was designed, a British passport designed, a certain data was used to make that algorithm. And my community was excluded because the algorithm was not able to recognize our image. And that leaves so many people from asking to bring your passport or to verify your passport and all sort of things. Now, in looking at diversity, when we're talking about inclusiveness, we have to look at it broadly, considering how diverse we have become as a community. That diversity is a strength and a competitive advantage. But how are we using this in terms of looking how things that benefit the community? You look at the government policies in that random table, when government you have to decide strategy, and how diverse is that table? Is my community represented? Or you just design a strategy, you don't know what the peculiar issue in my community. Now, we're looking at the digital poverty, talking about digital strategy that Scottish government is preaching all over. Are we included? How is this affecting us? We are currently still dealing with the issue of digital poverty. Now we are moving to the next level of AI. Where do we stand here? So my message is very simple. AI is the way forward. Please do not leave us behind. We need to be able to be diverse in terms of what we do. We need to engage, active engagement across the board, bringing everybody together for us to develop the strategy and policies that is fair enough as a community. Take a simple example. My son's name is already put me in a disadvantaged position when I apply for some job. So I just hope that this AI is not going to be the same box-ticking exercise like we have as equal opportunity. Every organization wants to say we are equal opportunity. Are we really equal? Do we stand on equal footing? Do I stand on equal footing with the other person competing on the same job? The answer is no. So we need to recognize how diverse we are. We need to be honest and ensure that this inclusion or inclusiveness and diversity is part of our culture in organizations. It's part of organizational DNA. And we need to find a way to report it as part of our KPI so that everybody will be accountable and ensure that we are doing the right thing.
Thank you. And I think 2 points from that are particularly well made in how representative are the spaces where the decisions are being made rather than the add-on box-ticking exercises that you talk about. And also, how do we move from the plans that we create to actual competent implementation as well? Yeah. Absolutely. I have some questions here that are from the audience. Please remember that you can submit more, so do keep doing that. But I'm going to go to audience questions, otherwise they're going to think that I'm taking too much privilege as the chair. So, how do you think AI can support a reform agenda when data is derived from a non-inclusive environment? So how do you think AI can support a reform agenda, so an agenda to promote equality, when data is derived from a non-inclusive environment? And Marissa, you've been very patient online, so I'm afraid I'm going to go to you first again.
Sorry, I was still very involved with one of the prior speakers, but can I just make one comment and then can you, because I was trying to follow both.
Please go ahead. Sorry, my mic wasn't on. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, because I just also wanted, because what you were saying, in other words, and we also experienced this in our network when we were working on the issue of gender-related violence and gender pay gap, for instance, where we wanted to look at how AI can help to decrease these problems. But with the COVID pandemic, now actually we are starting at a lower point than we've started 2 years ago from the project, because gender-related violence increased and the gender and the pay gap also increased and the unpaid work from home. So I just kind of wanted to make this comment that after these 2 years, we're even starting at the lower place where we've been 2 years before that. And sorry for that. I just really thought I wanted to share this. Could you repeat the question, please? I'm not really sure if I totally understood it.
Of course, I'm hoping my mic has gone back on. Where am I? Does the panel think, oh, somebody's taken away the question, and I can't remember what the question is now. How do you think AI can support reform when data is derived from a non-inclusive environment?
I think that's an extremely good question. Actually, I'm afraid there's no good answer to this. We're currently, for instance, writing a book on tech solutionism, where you want to use technology to solve problems, and this has always two sides. So on the good hand, but the problem is you only work on symptoms, and you never get to the cause of the problem. So I'm not really sure if maybe if the data set is flawed, I mean, obviously this is flawed from the very beginning, so this is nothing that should come in place anyways. However, I do believe that at one point or in combination, you can use in various or small parts of problem solution, you can use certain technologies to promote or to solve certain issues, but only in very small parts.
Thank you, Marissa. Can I open that up to the panel to see if anybody would like to respond?
Yeah, like I would like to say it's already a problem. Like we have a data set has already an issue, so we need to use certain technology to deal with that. Like I would say as a data scientist, we would have different results if we treat that data with certain technologies, because this is not the actual data. We are not dealing with the actual problem. We are dealing with wrong data sets. We are trying to create a solution for it by using technology. So we don't have the actual diversity there. We don't have the actual examples there. So that will lead, everything will be created by the technology. So we are not sure about the final result from this one, and we can convert that result to the real life. This is I would say, this is my personal point of view about anything or any case like this.
Mm-hmm. It actually links to another question we have here, which is, data tech is a notoriously non-inclusive employment sector. Do you think the tech it produces is inherently non-inclusive? And that is, I think it works on two levels, because about the data that you've talked about and it being inherently biased, and those who are working in data tech and not being particularly diverse set of people themselves. So the question is, data tech is a notoriously non-inclusive employment sector. Do you think the tech it produces is therefore inherently non-inclusive? Who'd like to go on that very small question first? Anna, can I come to you? Sorry, you made eye contact with me, and you shouldn't have, the minute somebody does eye contact.
Colleagues at the conference once banned me from making eye contact because we never got to go to lunch. It's really difficult hearing because there's quite a bit of feedback. So in this environment already, there's a bit of bias against people who are older and whose hearing is going. So I will try and, I think that because of who develops the technology will be biased. One of the ways I teach user-centered design is I ask my class, what is a typical user? And there is no typical user. And it definitely isn't a young male sitting at a computer doing data science. But of course, predominantly, that's who is developing our tech. Sorry guys, I like you, I love you. But the reality is that most of the AI is being developed by young white males.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And that's not the diversity of Scotland or the world.
Indeed.
Definitely not the world. And I think the awareness that is something we need to build into our policy, that when systems are put out for tender, because I think government has a role here, when systems are put out to tender, there should be a requirement for evidence of diversity in collecting data sets, diversity in developing interfaces, and just common sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. Chucks, would you like to come in there?
Yeah, I thank you very much. I just want to look at with what she mentioned about diversity, which I mentioned earlier about strength in terms of anything we do. A typical example is some years ago, an organization in America used certain data of persons who are masculine to design, to increase employment, just to improve employment process in a construction company. So each time application comes in for a job, so that algorithm will reject female and people with the same stature like me, recruiting more masculine people, people who are energetic to do the job. So the organization is performing in terms of the manual work out there in the construction site, but in terms of administrative and other responsibility within the organization, there are no people to fill those roles because the algorithm is rejecting certain data of persons that apply for those roles. So diversity is the key when we're talking about AI strategy, recruitment, and everything. So when we include it, when we include diversity and be able to use the data across different gender and different communities, we're able to get a robust data that will give us almost 100% of the information we need to be able to get a result. So the bottom line is that we just need to recognize how diverse we are and be able to use it in everything we do as an organization. And I believe that every person represented here is going home with a message that as a diverse community we are, we need to recognize it in anything we do. Absolutely. So that we can get the best of in our society.
Thank you very much. We have a question here, and as the prerogative of the chair, I'm going to change the question slightly. But you'll understand why, and Steph knew what she was getting into when she asked me to chair. So the question is, does the panel think that promotion, employment, enrollment should be fully merit-based? Asterisk, there is no such thing as a meritocracy, we don't live in one, end. Or should there be additional measures introduced to ensure inclusivity because we don't live in a meritocracy? I'm the chair, so I don't share my opinion. I will come to you, Reyam, first. Can I come to you first?
Sorry, can you say the question again?
I was too busy making a joke out of it, so I'll say it again. Does the panel think that promotion, employment...
Sorry, could you maybe talk away from the mic just to repeat the question so that we can hear it?
Okay. Does the panel, is that better?
Yeah.
Does the panel think that promotion, employment, enrollment should be fully merit-based, or should there be additional measures introduced to ensure inclusivity? And Reyam, could I go to you first?
I wouldn't agree with that. I would say promotion for any place, it would be depends on your performance. There is nothing there could be added to that one, like any data scientist build any model there, they need to think about the final result for that, how that could affect people's lives. So promotion is one of the things that affects people's life. So adding these features, it wouldn't be a great thing to be there. So it could be something depends on your performance, that's it.
So your position is that there needs to be, no positive action measures, no measures to boost underrepresented groups when they are potentially suppressed through system inequality?
I don't think so. Like, from myself, I would prefer treating similar to anyone without considering my background, without considering my gender, without considering my age, without considering anything. I am similar to anyone. I am similar to the man. I am similar to the white person. I'm similar to the British person. at the end, we have different performance. If I am good as a data scientist, that could be the thing I will get promoted for it. My manager watching now, so I hope he will get me promoted. So that's what I believe.
Okay, we'll talk after. Marissa, would you like to come in?
Yes. Sorry, it's an unusual setting for me, but I would definitely like to jump in because, first of all, I'm not. I kind of disagree. I want to disagree with you politely. I see what I hear your words, and I think this is the vision, and I think this is how it's supposed to be. However, since we are not there yet, I truly support any form of quota systems where we have rules in place to ensure diversity for now until we are at a place where it's normal. However, that does not mean, a quota does not mean that we're taking the next whoever, women, black women, whoever, just off the streets. Of course, it has to match the performance and the everything that needs. However, we must work a little bit harder to make sure that we're getting this balance, to make this balance normal, and then maybe in whatever many years, then we'll hopefully be at that place that you have just described.
Thank you. Anna, would you like to go next?
In an ideal world, we would not have this problem, but we're not in an ideal world. How many disabled programmers have you come across? In my 40 years, we've got our first student in Dundee who uses eye gaze. And we had to fight to get her in because she didn't have the same opportunities at school that other children had. Until we actually get the young people up through the stages, we get more girls back into computing, we get more diversity coming through into the training. We cannot let our guard down. And I have never had those opportunities. I've done it because I've just thrown. There's a Scottish word, thrown. So I would just get there, whatever. But the majority of disabled people, people from low socioeconomic backgrounds, we need to fight to get those people the same opportunities to get into the application stage. So I think we do need some quota or some awareness going.
Some way to level that playing field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shix, did you want to come in?
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you. If you look at the way we are, or look at our community, I would say we are not on equal footing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to say that organizations should reduce their standard, but we should find a way to lift those people at the bottom so that we can run at the same pace. What do I mean? Most organizations I see a lot of statistics showing that organizations are looking for so many tech persons to fill certain role in Scotland that we don't have persons to do the job. Are the organizations just sitting down waiting to harvest already made skill, or are they given opportunity to nurture skill? That's the way I think that organizations should try to focus to be able to bridge the gap in terms of manpower or talent pool in Scotland by providing an opportunity whereby people from deprived background or vulnerable group can give you this opportunity to be able to start the entry level by training them and nurture them and be part of the organization. And they will come into the organization with different skills from different backgrounds and to be able to add more value to the organization. So I use the opportunity to appeal to everyone here. As you go home, you go with this message. You need to do more. We have a lot of job to do in our society. We need to recognize the reality in our society.
Yeah.
We should just sit down and crying or looking for skills. Please nurture skill. Diverse community have fantastic skills. Give us a platform to shine. Lift us up, support us, and Scotland will be fair for everyone.
I think that's an excellent place for us to finish. I almost don't need to conclude. It's all done there. Thank you to our fantastic panel. Can you please give a warm round of applause to our fantastic panel? Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. So I would just like to finish by saying thank you for the opportunity to chair, and I am going to hand back to your chair for the day, and if the panellists can make their way back down. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Talat. Brilliant job. Thank you. Thanks so much to our panellists. That was excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Such big issues, such big thoughts that came out of that, and what a brilliant panel to bring us to the end of Scotland's inaugural AI Summit here today.